You are very positive on...
I'm very bullish.
Positive on Cambodia's economic.
I think it's very obvious.
Because you are a kind of number man, and nowadays Prime Minister of Cambodia, Hun Manet, also the kind of number man. That is why both of you feel the same.
That's interesting. So, because Prime Minister Hun Manet, I think, has stewarded this. I mean, he is the best possible guardian of the economy. I mean, he seems to have a grasp on the way that power dynamics, international power dynamics work, but also it's very rare to find a leader who has a good grasp of international power dynamics and on domestic economy focus and incentives and economic growth. Usually you get one or the other. You don't get both those traits usually in a single leader. So when you have that, that's another very positive sign. Also young. You want someone who's relatively young for a world leader.
You said Cambodia's government is strong, maintain economy, but based on the data, IMF and ADB this year, 2026, they released the prediction 4.0% and ADB 4.2%. It compared to the last year, it's 5%. So how can?
But the IMF and the ADB numbers are widely challenged by economists. I mean, they're widely considered to be gross underestimates. I mean, I think most market participants expect growth to come in around 5% this year.
You've been around many countries in the world because originally you're from UK and then you moved to Bahrain.
Yeah.
And now you come to Cambodia looking for opportunity investment here. Do you think Cambodia is a country which has a stability, sustainable development, and good for FDI, foreign investment here? Is it a good place for investment?
I do. I think it's got a great infrastructure for it. If you look at the laws here, I said this the other day to someone. If you look at the laws for incorporation, starting business, investing into the country, etc., they, certainly within the ASEAN region, they make some of the most sense. They're the most obvious. They're the most straightforward of any legislation for foreign investors. They're the easiest to understand. They're the easiest to get your head around compared to other ASEAN countries.
Sometimes today, Hun Manet, on February, he went to US and to Europe, and I think the goals of his official state visit to make good cooperation and open opportunity for investment in Cambodia, and also build a good relationship to build a peace in Asian region, because while Cambodia has a conflict with Thailand, Cambodia just wants peace and build stability, sustainable development. So how can we convince to Europe investor and the US investor and the Middle East investors come to invest in Cambodia to balance with China? Because China's staying number one right now.
Right, but this is okay, but this is sort of missing the point. The point I'm making is the US will have to invest into Cambodia in order to support their own dollar economy at some stage. The more the Chinese invest into Cambodia, the more the US have to do likewise. Either they have to purchase more goods, which they will do, but eventually the Americans and the Europeans will say, okay, but we're purchasing all these goods from Cambodia, why don't we just go and build our factories there?
How about the brand name of Cambodia? Because this, when we think about the first quarter of 2026, some international media platforms have blamed Cambodia as a Cambodia that affect for international investors that do they will afraid after they read that article. Do they still willing to?
It's a good question.
Still willing to invest in Cambodia, like China or the US or other country in Asia?
It's a very good question. I have a lot of problems with that story in the Wall Street Journal, and I've said, that this is sloppy journalism. There's a number of problems with it. For a start, they pulled the data that they used to justify this from a research report that was put together by a UK and a US think tank. It was just a guess by a consultant. And so there really is no substance to the story whatsoever. I think serious investors do not tend to pay that much credence to a news story because they tend to dig a little deeper themselves. I mean, you've got to remember, a serious investor is looking at identifying opportunities that other people haven't identified yet. Mm-hmm. So they're not getting the most of their information from a mainstream media news source. They're actually doing their own research. However, it is a legitimate concern that this article was written in a very sloppy, careless fashion, that there were no reporters on the ground. What's so interesting about that Wall Street Journal story is they didn't even send a reporter here. If they'd sent a reporter here, they would be writing a totally different story. Mm-hmm. They would have gone and seen factories being built. They would have gone and seen the exports rising. They would have gone and seen how those manufacturing growth is tying into a new digital supply chain type growth, and they would have seen the actual growth on the ground. So I think it is a legitimate concern for very serious investors. I'm not sure it has that much impact because, like I say, they tend to do their own research, but certainly it can be criticized.
This time you come to Cambodia looking for investment opportunities. So will you persuade other foreign investor or your friends come to looking for investment in Cambodia?
I mean, I tell people, anyone will listen, you got to look at this economy. It's in a very interesting place right now, and not a lot of people are looking at it. You got to look closely. And the people who I respect the most all agree with me. In fact, I was talking to one of the biggest deal makers in Southeast Asia just the other day. And he was saying to me, to be honest, I love the macro. The macro is the best part of it. Mm-hmm. You've got that macro means the big picture.